This is Coach Tom of Body Physics Endurance Coaching, and I just wanted to do a quick little video to talk to both my clients and others that are endurance athletes about what some of my advice would be from a training perspective as to how I'm handling the changing times with pool closures, quarantines, self-quarantines, health clubs being closed, and races being canceled. So basically, many people had been on the uptick for spring marathons, Boston Qualifier or Boston Marathon, gravel races, stuff like that. And whether you design your own program or you're working with a coach, typically we do a volume increase as spring winds up here to get you ready for your season. With races being stalled out, basically what my advice to people is let's flatten that volume increase a little bit. And if you were, getting into those final prep stages for Boston, there were a bunch of key half marathons last weekend that were canceled. What I did with many of those clients, either last week or even this week, is we did kind of a time trial. But rather than it being an all-out time trial, we put a governor on it, and those of us that have clients, or those of my clients that have power meters for running the Stride power meter, we picked a number that was just barely below what we would think that they could go and nail for the race. And we had them warm up and then run that half marathon on a known distance course using their Garmin, making sure that they had proper fueling strategies, and with the thought that we could recreate this in the future. And what we did was we went ahead and ran those runs this weekend, and then we looked at what we call decoupling. I was able to look at vertical ground contact time, vertical oscillation, or I should say ground contact time, vertical oscillation, leg stiffening, some of the other metrics to see where their fatigue set in. And that gives us kind of a baseline moving forward that in 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, we can come back and retest those and see measured progress. So that would be one suggestion. You can do the same thing on the bike using power. I suggest that we do a bigger base building block here, as to the fact that we can be pretty certain that most races aren't going to materialize in the next 6 to 8 weeks, maybe longer. So we've got time to ramp up, but continuing with our building and recovery phases makes the most sense. I think adding strength for injury prevention and overall durability makes sense, especially with not being able to use the pool. I'm working a lot on helping people have good quality home strengthening routines. We're using TRX and TheraTubes, weights. It doesn't mean that you have to have much in the way of equipment, but for roughly maybe $110, $120, you can have a pretty complete gym at home to get you through at least a 10 to 12 week block of strength training. So I happen to use TrueCoach and Fit software to kind of send videos and routines that I've designed based on the individual people. So I encourage you to think about getting back to some of the preventative exercises, whether they be lunges or split squats or clams, planks, push-ups with the TRX where we're working on shoulder stability, body weight push-ups, planks on the ball, dead bugs, adductor, open chain exercises, deadlifts, hip hinge exercises with kettlebells. All of those things are a good idea. The specifics, you have to dig in that with your coach or build it out yourself. There's plenty of information on that. I suggest that we avoid racing at this time. We need to understand that as endurance athletes, we may be a little bit more resistant to this virus. I'm not a medical doctor, but we absolutely know that, when we are more fit, our immune system tends to be a little bit more robust. We tend to be a little bit more durable. However, we also know that when we increase volume too much or intensity, we definitely break ourselves down, and it's at those points that we actually are open to illness and injury quite a bit more. So we want to kind of stay below that curve and err on the side of having a little bit more resistance. Increase our sleep and recovery. Pay attention to your nutrition when you're working out, and I'd suggest that we always leave a little bit extra on the table in the next 2 to 6 weeks here. We can adjust obviously as time goes on, but from what we know today, that makes a lot of sense. We also need to realize that outside stress plays a role in breaking us down, and so if whether it be that you've got a whole bunch of people from the family living in the same house and you're not used to kind of the close quarters and it's creating stress, or you're worried about paying bills, or your business, employees, loved ones who are sick, you name it, there's going to be an increased stress level. So my suggestion there is to decrease your intensity on the bike, the running, pay attention to giving yourself just a little bit more, leaving a little more in the tank so you're not so drained. Spend your extra time maybe making sure that your bike maintenance is good, body maintenance, doing all the flexibility, range of motion, mobility, strength training, stuff of that nature. Making sure that you've got a good quality plan. I wouldn't stress over when races are going to come back. That's just something out of our control. So I'd focus on what we can control and realize that we exercise, many of us exercise because we thoroughly enjoy the process, and we enjoy all of the benefits of training, exercising, getting outside, and seeing progress. So I'd focus on the things we can control, not worry about the things we can't. From the swimming perspective, you can definitely add some more strength. Many times people are lacking range of motion in their shoulders. Streamline is the key to swimming fast, or one of the biggest keys. So if you don't have a complete shoulder range of motion, this would be the time where you can spend some valuable time focusing on rolling your lats and your shoulders, doing T-spine mobilization, using stretching straps to get back that range of motion so that you can have good mobility in the water, and you don't create extra drag. On the bike, I'd suggest that if you haven't tried some of the online platforms, you kind of embrace them. They're excellent training tools. I'd avoid racing too much on Zwift or other platforms. I try to do more structured workouts and understand that having an accurate FTP is pretty important to understand the training loads that we're putting on our body. So take some time to test that. You can use the ramp test. You can use 2 by 8 minutes. You can use 1 by 20. Find out what your coach suggests, and use those methods so that you're not completely putting yourself into a complete race mode and breaking down. Most of you will be able to handle a 20-minute hard effort Do a day or two of recovery, a day or two before, and be fine. You didn't break down your resistance at all. The timing of that, though, can be important. Maybe you need to wait a week. If you've been out and about and really stressed, give yourself a chance to drop your stress level a little bit so you're not breaking yourself down more than needed. Once you've got that accurate FTP, we know that staying below 55% of your FTP is currently our definition of real recovery. And so staying in those, below those percentages makes the most sense. In any event, I just wanted to both send an update to my clients as to what my thoughts are and how I'm adjusting their plans, and kind of put this out there for others that are following and are interested in wondering, how maybe they should adjust their training plans. I'll give you some very specifics as I close here. If you've been running 30, 35 miles a week, maybe you drop that down by 5 or 8%, or you drop the intensity down if you're going to do a little bit more running and keep it easier, so you're not putting too much stress into your body. We want to obviously stress our system to get better, but it's got to be incremental stress. We don't want to cross that gray area into the red zone and break ourselves down too much, where we open ourselves up to being susceptible to breaking down from the virus, or just from stress and overtraining. So let's make sure that we decrease our intensity or our volume, and just leave a little extra on the table. Same thing with the indoor workouts, making sure you're fueling when you're indoors, making sure you've got fans to help lower the intensity a little bit, not getting suckered into every Zwift race on the internet, maybe picking one a week, and staying well within your zones. Maybe every 2 to 3 weeks you can do a race, but I still encourage people at this time to try to avoid all-out races. I think you'll be served better in the long run. Consistency is what makes for the best overall fitness. So if we can back off a little bit, stay consistent, stay healthy, avoid injury, avoid sickness, and when the smoke clears here, we'll be able to ramp up, we'll have a better base, and we'll be able to get much better results in the long run. So everybody's in the same boat here. Those are some of my suggestions, and if I get a good response, we'll try to put a few more of these out and let you know what I'm thinking. Have a great day, and try to get out, keep some distance here, and keep your exercise going through these changing times. Thanks.